know. I hate that kind of music.
I know, but aren't you getting? It's getting me psyched up. Are you ready for what time is it? 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock? I don't even know what time the game's on tonight.
Neither do I.
Oh, Abigail, welcome to We Are a Crotchety Old Man
and a Woman,
the podcast for you, with you, and sometimes even about you. So today is a very big day in the Abigail household and Toto and Benji household and Arden. It is XFL Championship Day between the Battlehawks of Boo St. Louis and our very own DC Defenders. Yay! Well, right now we have that other conference, the USFL on right now, and we have an upset in the making as of right this second, Michigan is winning 21-6 over your three-time champion Birmingham Stallions. In fact, I'm actually having a mini Twitter battle with a Birmingham fan, which I've never done before. I've never actually had a conversation on Twitter like this. I'm saying, dude, you guys have no attendance. Why don't you play in a high school field? Maybe you'll sell out that. Maybe. Anywho, how you doing, Abigail?
I'm doing okay.
I'm doing okay. We also wanted to let you know that Roland is not with us because we actually had a late night last night. So he'll be joining us next week. And we're actually going to be talking about movies and music a little bit more with Roland. Because did you know, I'm really feeling old today. Do you know that Goonies is 40 years old today?
I did not, but that makes me feel very, very old.
40 years old. What was the guy, Sloth?
I don't remember. I just remember the song.
Oh, wow. Look at you. That was with Cyndi Lauper. Nice. We're going to talk about music next week. Thank goodness. And I did the cool boyfriend of the year today, not today, on National Donut Day.
I'm sorry. That's a feat as a whole year?
Yes.
Wow.
So Arden,
wow, a free donut.
I sacrificed.
It's the boyfriend of the year award.
I sacrificed my donut. Well, I actually went. I went specifically to Dunkin' Donuts to get you a donut.
I know, but that doesn't make you boyfriend of the
Oh yes, it does.
Maybe boyfriend of the 15 minutes.
It was a Boston cream.
Okay, 20 minutes.
Well, so we got a lot going on in sports. What are some of the things we got going on besides the UFL?
Well, you told me that for the Stanley Cup, it's the same two teams
as last year.
Yeah.
Which is, you know what? Like, I actually forgot. How bad is that? I knew Florida, the Panthers won the Stanley Cup.
And I think they won last night in double overtime.
Yes.
Or the night before.
Yeah, they were winning. And then they actually, with like 3 minutes left, I was tired. So I went to bed. Oilers tied up again like they did in game one. Mm-hmm. But this game went 2 overtimes. And the Panthers came through. So they, and it's definitely not really good if you are a NHL fan because you like the ratings are tanking. You know, no one cares about Edmonton and no one cares about Florida. You know, maybe Floridians. Mm-hmm. Maybe. I don't think my sister cares. She lives in Florida. I doubt it.
So I saw some headlines about Simone Biles, the gymnast that did very well on the last Olympics.
Yeah, she won a gold, I think.
It's a political football, and she's dove right in. Mm-hmm. And Arden, you know more about it than I.
Right. So Riley Gaines, the swimmer, who's been complaining about men competing in women's sports in college for a few years now. Well, Simone Biles decided that she's going to join the fray. And she's like, well, you know, I have no problem with men competing in women's sports. Now, of course, this is after she's already retired. And it's gymnastics, where she was a gold medal. Kind of hard because a lot of men can't compete in some of the actual events for gymnastics. Like, you know, the uneven bars. They don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Do men do the what's that beam?
No,
Yeah,
they don't.
they don't do the
the
beam.
pommel horse.
They do the pommel horse and the rings. So like, I mean, completely different
And the
sport.
floor show.
Oh, yeah, well, the women do the floor show with the little ribbon. You know.
No, women do it without the ribbon.
Oh, I've seen
Have
them.
you even watched it?
I've seen a lot of them, and they got the
That
ribbon.
ribbon is a totally different sport.
Isn't that but isn't that on the floor, the big giant mat where they're
Yes,
doing all the
but-
tumbling and stuff?
Yeah, but the big event.
Oh,
is
yes,
when
they're doing the super
the
one.
single women do the thing without a ribbon.
What if they're married? Then they're not single women.
Most of them are girls.
Oh, well, hey, I said women, so I gave them the credit. Yeah, so we got Stanley Cup time, we got football time. It's a big fun
I
day.
was a little disappointed. Here's my bit about the WNBA. That
Oh yeah.
most people don't follow or believe in. But then again, Arden believes in the XFL and USFL. So I don't know who's taking the high road or not, but the Caitlin Clark effect is still with us. Yesterday was the big game, or what was supposed to be the big game, with Caitlin Clark and the Chicago Sky, with, of course, Angel Reese, who is basically a self-rebounder. And that gives her stats, more rebounds throughout a game, because when she misses her shot, she simply catches the ball afterwards. And I think she ended up with 2 points. But my point is that unfortunately Caitlin Clark is out with an injury. And actually the Chicago Sky had already moved the venue to essentially the Chicago Bulls NBA arena.
Yeah, I don't know what that's called. Sorry.
And ticket sales just plummeted because Caitlin Clark wasn't going to be playing. And my understanding is they were selling the tickets for $3.
I
$3.
mean,
I mean, going from hundreds, if not thousands of dollars per seat
to $3.
to $3.
I mean, that's embarrassing. I mean, it's not as embarrassing as the XFL's attendance, but then again, yeah. By the way, before that game, I actually watched a video of her dancing. Reese. She was dancing like on how awesome she is going to do in the game. Wah, wah, wah. She stinks. She just stinks.
So I saw late last night that Trump went to the UFC fight
Yeah,
in New Jersey.
In Newark, New Jersey, goes. I mean, not exactly a Trump, state right there. And by the way, he is loved by people who watch UFC, combat sports. He's loved by people who watch that. And the fighters all know that he's there. Now, these fighters aren't like the boxers of the golden era where they were making millions and millions of dollars. I mean, these champions are making maybe $1 million, maybe. Mm-hmm. And all of them, like after they won, all of the winners came by to Trump and actually thanked him. And the one woman, she had a championship belt. She like gives it to him, puts it on her shoulder. Like it's just, and then the one guy wins, and he was so excited. I think he was more excited about meeting the president, than he was about actually winning. Like he rushed over. He was like, ah. Which once again, if you're the Secret Service, I know we talked about this a long time ago, but if you're the Secret Service and an MMA fighter is heading towards the president, you gotta be a hint nervous.
That's right.
Just a hint. Because those guys are scary. But that was, I think that's all we got for sports today.
Well, I came across something very interesting, I guess yesterday.
Oh.
On Fox News, they were promoting the Fox Nation streaming service with a Donald Trump show called The Art of the Surge. Mm-hmm. And I went ahead and was suckered into, signing up for a subscription.
I don't think you were suckered.
But they're on season 2 right now, but I went back to season 1. And I must say, I told Arden, it's amazing. They start the timeline basically touching upon Butler, but that would come up later, but with the debate night. And the choreography is just incredible. It basically, Trump gave access to 2, documented documentary people.
Right, the film.
And they followed the president throughout the campaign. And but the video, what do you call it?
It's a video.
I mean, it's crystal clear.
The quality is amazing.
It pops, and ultimately, it's just very impressive. Very impressive.
And a show I probably would not have watched until you watched that first episode. Like, I was enthralled by it. And the one part, and I'm not giving anything away because everyone has seen it, but the famous fight, fight, fight chant by Trump, I have never seen the angle from the crowd up. Mm-hmm. And I have to admit, like, there was tears in my eye when you see the crowd. They're crouched down. The shots were fired. They're all down, and you see his head stick up, and people are scared out of their minds. And he just sticks his hand up in the air and just starts yelling, "Fight!" You can't hear him say "fight," but the entire crowd rose. It looked like a movie, right? Like that. They rose and they cheered him on like that, and with like. You see it in military movies where like the captain gets up and just like races towards the enemy and then everyone else follows screaming. That's kind of what it reminded me of. And it was just a very powerful image. I had a tear in my eye, even though I've seen it 1,000 times before.
Well, the great thing about this is it gives you footage that none of the news channels got.
Right, including Fox.
Because these guys were there on the ground and their objective is to document the entire campaign, and season 2 covers, I believe, the actual election, and how he basically had the greatest comeback in political history.
I'm excited to watch it. The behind the scenes, like, by the way, like things you never think about is when the politicians and everyone are just eating. They're at like little fold-up tables having salads, meanwhile, like Trump is giving his speech and they're interviewing like Marco Rubio, and like he's got his little salad there. People are just, I'm like, huh?
They are real people.
Yeah. Whoa, this is actual real. Like that was really cool.
So I, of course, had another impulse buy from Amazon after watching the second episode because Trump was touting a new coffee table book, and the pictures are just stunning. And of course, I had to order it right away. And when Trump was going through it and doing his commentary, at some point he said, "This is your favorite president." I mean, you gotta hand it to him. He is a funny guy.
Right. He's got to stop with the watch commercials, though.
Yes, the watch commercials.
I mean, he's starting to be like the My Pillow guy with the watches. I mean, that's starting to get a little annoying. Pretty amazing stuff, though. I liked it. I liked it a lot. And but he is having problems with Elon Musk.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
And it's just interesting. A bunch of people. I still think it's fake. I think they're waiting for the right time where they're just going to come out laughing about this. Where they're saying, the media falls for everything I do. You guys are in my hands. Because there was some awkward tweet last night on X by Elon Musk, and people are like, wait, is this fake? Because they brought up the Epstein files. Now, Trump has no problem with that, with the Epstein files, because there's pictures of him with Epstein, but he pretty much told Epstein to go to hell. And he was never on the island or anything, so he can care less. And so I think that this is Musk's way of possibly getting the Epstein files actually out there. And all the Democrats are like, come on, let it out. Show Trump, ruin Trump. And then bam.
Yeah, but I kind of disagree with that theory, but maybe you're going to be right. I think he's already shown a little remorse. He did delete the post about the Epstein files. Will they ever be best buds? Probably not. But, that's just sidebar political theater, and I just think people need to move on.
Well, the one thing that Trump brought up that I actually forgot about was the EV mandate. So living in Virginia, we, of course, follow what California does when it comes to certain rules and laws.
And why is that?
I have no idea. And our governor, Youngkin, because the Republicans do not control the Virginia House and Senate, he can't get it passed. So we're stuck, and actually, it's no longer 10 years. It's 9 years and 6 months away from every single car having to be an electric vehicle. Not even a hybrid, an electric vehicle. So that has another thing in the big, beautiful bill, which I'm still 75% for, because it is ridiculous how much money we're giving to other countries, but that's a whole other story. But that EV mandate is horrible.
Yeah, it is.
Gotta get rid of that.
Yeah, and the big news today is about the LA riots.
Yeah,
He's brought in the National Guard. Is that correct?
yes.
How about the Marines?
No, the Marines are not. They're not allowed to really be placed there. It has to be the National Guard. But it's Gavin Newsom is out there like saying he's going to withhold $80 billion in federal taxes because it's all about ICE detentions, because they had over like 2,000 arrests in ICE detentions, and so they're arresting all of these illegals. And Gavin Newsom, of course, is on the side of the illegals. You had Maxine Waters today, I mean, literally demanding entry into an ICE facility, just demanding entry. By the way, they can have entry if they call ahead, because they just want to make sure everything is secure. So it's another political stunt again. We just watched a video of a helicopter unloading non-lethal ammunition, like rubber bullets, tear gas, stuff like that. Like it's getting out of hand. This is day 3. Once again, it's California. Democrats control it. And before I go into that, I also, at the same time, while flipping through news stuff, this one lady popped up and she's demanding, she's very upset because all of her lawn maintenance is going up because they're arresting all of the Mexicans. Her words, not mine. Mm-hmm. And it's like, do you Democrats listen to yourselves? You talk about who's going to pick the vegetables, who's going to mow my lawn, and it's only the people from South and Central America. Are you really listening about that? They're not slaves, people, and they're just so up on their high horse. All right, I'm done with that.
So, well, I'm not.
Well, I mean, I'm talking about that lady.
Ultimately, I have several names for Cory Booker, but he is nothing but a pansy. Ultimately, him and the Democrats, they're already doing their spin. And Booker said today that Trump is trying to incite violence at a, quote, peaceful protest. When is the news media going to stand up to that statement?
Right.
They let it go in, what town was it, or city?
Oh, was
Minneapolis?
that Minnesota? Yeah, it was in Minnesota.
Minneapolis. Yeah. They just let that go with people in Congress calling it a peaceful protest.
Mostly peaceful.
As
the fire is burning.
That's just a freaking joke.
And it's they're the ones who are pushing. The people have Mexican flags flying high, and they're not mostly peaceful protesters. If they were just walking hand in hand through the street, that's mostly peaceful. They're taking they're breaking concrete and throwing the rocks at people. They're throwing them at the police. They're throwing them at rocks are dangerous. They're learning from the famous Palestinians back in the 80s and 90s about throwing rocks. And there's one picture. Tom Holman actually put it out where all of the ICE vehicles are driving by, and this one person just keeps picking up rocks and throwing them at their windshields over again, one car after another. And Tom Holman goes, "We have you on facial recognition. We are going to fine you. You are going to be arrested, and you're going to jail." I like Tom Holman. He's just he's like a no nonsense guy. Something you want. No nonsense. He's not political. He's I'm going to do my job. Shut up. And if you get in my way, you're going to jail. And I want to start seeing that Democrat in New Jersey. I hope she actually goes to jail.
Yeah.
Why is it her court case should be quick? I mean, it just I mean, that's a right to a speedy trial. Mm-hmm. But she wants to delay it.
And how about the Dems whining because the ICE agents are wearing masks to protect their identity from, one of these psycho protesters to go after their families?
Well,
and, they say that's just unacceptable, and that these guys must, and women, must not wear masks when making the raids. I mean, these Democrats are just on the wrong side of history and logic. You name it. They are just, we've got to win the House and the Senate for that matter.
Right.
Because they are going to impeach him if they don't. But the reality is Trump lives in Realville.
Right. Right.
Rush Limbaugh used to say that.
Realville, yep.
And, these guys just don't.
And they talked about, like, the masks again. Like, 2 weeks ago, I think I mentioned about the whole thing that the drug cartels went and killed all of these police in Mexico because they had their identities. That's what the Democrats want. They want people to get killed. Chaos.
It's a freaking joke.
If you control the chaos.
Sure right now they're hoping some protesters get killed.
Of course they do.
And that way they can just run it and say that Trump caused these deaths, and it just doesn't end.
Nope. Never does. It's pitiful.
And, speaking of craziness, what do you think about the Maryland man coming back to the States to basically face charges that to me look, astronomical? And I hope he doesn't get out on bail. I hope he gets convicted and sent to federal prison. And if he's involved in a murder, which I don't think is in the scope of this process.
Right, not here. No.
But,
this is trafficking.
The death penalty.
And the funny part is, even if he gets acquitted, they're still kicking him out of the country.
Right. They now have
no matter what. Like, congratulations. But and notice how the Democrats are slowly moving away from him once they found out he beat his wife.
Yeah.
And they actually have the footage of him. Well,
they're just saying that he represents due process. And, you got another Dem out there yesterday who said, basically, if you are here illegally, you deserve due process.
Yep.
I mean, if they can't see the absurdity of that statement, then I don't know what to tell you, folks.
Well, they're also demanding their, like, Medicaid, Medicare, they're demanding everything for illegals, and they don't understand why that's bad. They just don't. And you have voting is now, by the way, early voting for governor of New Jersey already? What was that?
I don't know. I mean, again, the Dems even had to steal an election in a Democratic state.
Right.
I don't know what else to say. It's just unbelievable.
Is it almost as unbelievable as Greta? Greta Thunberg. So did you hear the latest on that one?
No.
So her boat is almost there. By the way, how long does that take? We were talking about this last week. The defense minister of Israel said that she is just an anti-Semite Hamas propagandist, and they are not going to let her in. Honestly, I'm hoping that they are stupid enough, they not being Israel, but the Greta Thunberg people, that they push Israel. I want them to actually push where the Israeli Navy comes over, takes them off their boat, and then they sink their boat and then arrest them. That's what I want.
Yeah, but that's not going to happen.
That could happen, that
Right.
they arrest them. Or maybe they get into Palestine and let Hamas take care of them.
Yeah.
Oopsie.
Well, there's a lot to be impressed with the Israeli government. And one story that really touched me this week was the IDF. Is that what they're called?
Yes.
What does that stand for? Do you know?
Israeli Defense something.
Okay.
I really should know.
I'll take that.
Damn.
So
Caught me off guard with that one.
They can
Force.
put together and coordinated
There it
a
is.
very big operation to simply go get a dead hostage and bring their body back.
Yeah.
For proper burial. And the statement from the government representative basically indicated that putting someone to rest is a right, not a privilege. And usually that statement is reversed.
Right.
When we talk about idiots, we say, whatever it is not a right, it's a privilege. Or is it the other way around?
I'm sorry. I was just thinking about a dead body being around for 2 years.
Yeah. We'll move on from my, memory or brain lapse.
Yes.
What we want to call
And it was the Israeli Defense Force.
Okay.
All right. I feel good about memorizing that.
So then the big story for me, because I work with this type of item, is the Chinese nationalist couple.
That's disgusting, by the way.
I mean, come on.
And-
They basically were bringing a very potent fungus. It was Fusarium something that could do great damage to our crops. Furthermore, it could also make humans sick, and if you're susceptible, you're going to die. And it's really an amazing story. They have text messages between the woman who was in the States and the boyfriend that was coming from China, in which she tells him to hide it in his shoe as going through security. And he also was able to ship a book to her with the little baggie of this fungus. And it's quite interesting or unbelievable that at was it the Michigan airport? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
The TSA flagged him and did a search, and they found the baggies of the fungus. And, turns out there's all kinds of text messages between them. And they tried to claim that she was a lab student at the University of Michigan. And he had indicated that he wanted to run experiments in her laboratory, which is just laughable. They talked about that she, pledged her allegiance to the Chinese Communist government. And another example of why we should not just bring in these people on visas to go to our schools and basically be a major threat to America. That right there should yield years of jail time, prison time. But we don't know what's going to happen to them. The news won't follow it.
Nope.
And quite frankly, I'm sure the mainstream news didn't even touch upon it.
And as Roland and I were talking about the ant fungus, the zombie ant fungus, hey, that could have led to all kinds of craziness. I mean, that whole thing is just unbelievable that they tried to fungus. It was so tiny. It's a little tiny thing, and they just tried to get it into the U.S. and kill Americans, and yet the Democrats are like Harvard, still like, let them in. Yeah.
Well, speaking of crops,
Craps.
I talked to Arden about this morning. He loves bananas. I can't stand them. I can't stand the smell. I can't even touch one, let alone eat one.
Bananas.
But I heard in the news that, is it Chiquita?
Chiquita.
Chiquita Bananas have fallen victim to yet another union debacle where the union was really tying up this company, and it was going on for months. And even the president of whatever nation in the South America, I don't remember, he got involved trying to resolve it. Well, finally, the company just said, enough. We're shutting down completely. So they laid off every single employee. And the news article described that most of these people, that is their livelihood. And they're going to lose everything because they only know how to pick bananas.
Right. And by the way, bananas, you have to know how to pick them because of the banana spider, which is extremely poisonous, lives in those trees. They actually have to know how to look for them and that they don't get a big nest of them. We're running out of time, folks, so I'm not going to talk about Lindsey Graham and Blumenthal today. Maybe next week, because those two dumbasses need to be in jail for the Logan Act, but that's a whole other story. But bananas, I'm very upset about my bananas going up in price because it's just a little... Oh, do you want to do the Trumpy Bowl now?
Yeah, I think we should.
Okay, well, hold on again.
I think both of our questions are sports related.
Yeah,
but
because they're
let's go
urgent.
ahead and get this in.
Okay.
So, Arden, you're up. I'm only going to do two.
Well, why don't you go first, because mine is the most important question.
Okay, Trump or we all know that Judge from the Yankees is red hot.
Except for last night.
His batting average is just through the roof.
Mm-hmm.
But what I say is, because he crashed and burned last year, is will Judge be red hot and be Mr. October when it counts?
Instead of Mr. May.
Absolutely.
Oh! Well, I'm hoping for the same answer for mine. Are you ready? This is
Yes.
important. Will the DC Defenders win tonight and crush the Battlehawks? And then the best part of it, they would have to humiliate it because guess what? St. Louis hosts the championship game. They get to stay there an extra week.
Which is just silly.
Which was, well, they did win the conference, so it didn't matter.
Okay.
But it was stupid anyway that they announced it. Come on, Trump. Come on. Pull it. Yes! Yes! In your face, Battlehawk fans. Now I'm excited.
Wow.
All right, I just had to get that out of the way. That's why we got a woohoo. That's Blur, by the way, song number 2, in case you were wanting to know the name of that song. One of my favorites from way back when. That's at least 30 years old or 20 years old.
We'll be touching upon that next week, so I don't know why we just did that, but that's okay.
That is okay. This is our exit conversation that people have.
Well, I think we can wrap it up.
Yep. So, so next week, Roland will be back. We're going to talk movies, music again. So, people, think about your music. What do you like? And have a great week out there.
All right. Thank you. Have a good day.